Hello, it's lovely to connect with you today. My name is Leanne Peters. I'm from templeofbalance.com.au, Temple of Balance on Facebook and Temple of Balance on YouTube. And I'm here to create a space of healing and support for you. Hopefully it resonates with you. And we have a bit of a theme going into this particular support and healing time today. So I've had, last time I did the support video, which was, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, I touched on triggers, and it's been requested that if I can, to do or cover triggers more in depth. So I'm going to do that today. So I'm going to dive into triggers, which means that we already sort of know our theme. I'm going to pull a healing energy card at some stage just to further explore the topic. And I've also got my smudge stick. So we're going to do some smudging and clearing today, and then I'll pull a card to go. So welcome. I want to send out an extra special welcome to my Temple of Balance patrons, my Pillar of Light family, and all of those of you who support my work through my website. Thank you so much for your support. I'm coming to you live now from Tasmania, Australia, where it is Saturday, 29th of July at 3:09 p.m. So where are you and how are you doing today? Triggers. Interesting. I'm going to share my experience with triggers from my perspective, and also a few things that I've observed, and a few things that just don't resonate with me in the trigger department. So I'm going to explore that. There might be some things that trigger you, because that's our topic, trigger. So, I'm not afraid of being triggered, let's just say, because I find, for me personally, if I'm triggered, it means that there's some issue, some insecurity, some fear, there's something, limitation, there's something that's going on within me that has prompted this trigger, this reaction. It's a reaction, isn't it? So there's something that's prompted a reaction in me, and then it's up to me to figure out what that reaction or that trigger is, what that means for me, what issue is it revealing to me, what is the issue that's underlying here, and what can I do about it so that I can minimize that trigger or that reaction. A trigger reaction, same sort of thing to me. So I personally, I don't put a lot of weight into the triggers or the reactions. Like I don't dwell on them forever. I deal with them at the time using my methods of healing and releasing and letting go and exploring, okay, why was I triggered like that? Why did I have that reaction? And what can I do about it? I don't really agree with the way society's becoming trigger happy with trigger warnings everywhere, because I feel that triggers are actually our responsibility. If we're triggered, that's our responsibility to look at that trigger. It's not up to us to censor ourselves in case we trigger someone. Like, I find that doesn't really resonate with me. It may resonate with you, and I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything. I'm just saying this is my approach with trigger. You take on board what resonates and let the rest go, or at least give it some thought and see how it feels for you. So trigger is actually a reaction. Why is it? Why are we having a reaction? So because there is an underlying issue of some sort, an underlying issue or fear or some flaw, some insecurity that we have. If we feel insecure about ourselves, then there's going to be a lot of reactions and a lot of triggers that we notice in our everyday life. And like, if we're walking around being triggered by everything, then we would be quite the mess, I would say. I don't tend to be that triggered because I face my issues when they come up. So when a trigger comes, when I'm reacting, I don't even really tend to use the word trigger that much. And plus, I find there's a lot of corrupted words at the moment in society, so I do tend to lean away from those types of words too. So if I'm reacting to something, or if I'm overreacting to something, then I have to take that as an opportunity to look at my issue. So I don't avoid it. I don't run for the most part. I don't look the other way or turn my blame towards others for that trigger or that reaction that I've actually had. I need to own that, and I need to really look at that, and I need to resolve it for myself. Because if I don't, then that reaction, that trigger, that's taking my power away. And if I don't own whatever the issue is that I have that's sitting underneath that is prompted here, then I'm giving my power away to the person that's triggered me perhaps, or whatever it is that I'm not ignoring or that I'm projecting out on an external level. So I'm very aware personally of not wanting to give my power away. And I certainly don't want people to give me their power either. But that's a whole other topic. But I'm very sensitive to myself, and if I am giving my power away to these external things, and it knocks me off balance. And I think that's primarily where I kind of weigh things up for myself, is my balance. And I'm very sensitive and aware of my balance, and I'm trying to maintain and keep my balance. There are things that knock me off balance. That's normal. It's super normal. So if a reaction or a trigger knocks me off balance because there's an issue I didn't realize I had, or I'm going through a new situation I've never been through before, and ouch, something's hit me here. What is this? It's brand new. So it knocks me off balance. I'm reacting to it. I'm triggered, if you like. So I need to figure out what that is. I need to resolve it. I need to release it so I can get back into balance again. So my ultimate aim always is to get back into balance and be in balance. So if something's tipping me off balance, a trigger or a reaction, I need to resolve it as quickly as possible so I can get back into balance again. So what else can I say about triggering? I guess, I don't put a lot of weight into it. I take it seriously at the time, I resolve it, I move on. And then balance is my thing. So, I'm not really triggered that often. Although there are a few modern words, I must say, I'm triggered by. So if I'm triggered by a word that I feel is corrupt and it doesn't feel right to me anymore, I may have used to have liked it and I don't anymore because it seems to be corrupted. There's a lot of corrupted words in society. I find that I struggle a little bit to play the game with, let's say. And one example I could give from a long time ago is the word God. Like, I had a real struggle with that as a young person. I was very much triggered by the word God. In fact, I couldn't even say the word God. And, I had issues around God and religion back in the day, mainly because my mother, who was brought up exclusive Brethren, she broke out of her religion when she was 18 and her family disowned her. And I found that really confusing to me as a child, growing up, and even as a teen or an adolescent or a young adult. How could a family do that to a child? So I just couldn't get my head around the concept of disowning a child because they didn't believe the religion that you were in. So I had this kind of trigger or this issue, let's say, around that particular word. And, it took me quite a few years to resolve that. And one of the ways that I got through, so I wasn't triggered all the time, but I didn't want to use the word, I just replaced that word with something that resonated more with me. Like at the time, especially leading up to 2012, there was a lot of God talk. When there was a lot of a surge in spirituality in the world, and I resonated more with Great Spirit or the Creator. So whenever I read the word God or someone said God, or I'd be replacing that with Great Spirit or the Creator. But I don't have that problem now because I've resolved that. I don't have the issue that I had, but there are certainly modern words that I do need to, and am working out how to replace those words or just completely ignore them, because that is something that, because I'm so aligned with my truth and things either feel right or they don't, it's very difficult for me to trust or say words that don't have the truth attached to them, in my opinion. So that's a whole other area of trigger. So basically, I think trigger is a reaction. And I guess too, when I look back and I think back, you know, like maybe about 13 years ago, I think around 2010, I was really focusing on how can I respond to this situation instead of react. And that was another thing that sort of shifted things for me was, okay, if I'm reacting, why am I reacting to something? So obviously an underlying issue. But sometimes too, I think we react to defend our beliefs. So that's another interesting angle to look at, let's say, triggers or reactions, is that sometimes we react like on impulse, in haste, to defend something, to defend someone. And that's something I'm also very cautious of when I'm feeling it or when I notice that in others. And I find if I can take the time to respond, which usually means take a big breath or sleep on it overnight and respond. You know, sometimes emails are a prime example of that. Sometimes you get a really strange email in that you just have this kind of impulsive reaction and you want to sort of hastily react and get defensive or justify yourself through this reaction. And I find maybe I'm getting a little wiser in my older age, but you know, sleeping on things sometimes is better, especially if I have that initial that pull to react. So I look at, and I've been looking at for a while, that, you know, how can I respond to this and not actually react? And I think that's also a part of toning down the things that potentially might be triggering in us. So I think this is a good time now to pull a card. So I'm using my healing energy cards. Welcome everybody, by the way. Nice to see Facebook still doing the old suppression thing. But it's good to see some of you here, like Kyle and Karina. Welcome. And everyone else, the other 8 of you who are watching at this point. Welcome. But I'm looking for a card. I want to hold a different intention this time because we have got a theme around triggers. I want to ask the cards I want to find the best card that the majority of us need, especially in regards to what further we need to discuss or explore around triggers or reactions or responses or giving our power away. So what do we need to further explore? I'm looking for the best card for that, which is this. So this is from Healing Energy Cards Deck 2, my latest brand new deck that I've combined with my original deck. It's so fun. And we've got this Untangled, card 60, Untangling. It's in the action category, and down here it says sort out the tangle. Okay, so let's twist this a little bit back to our theme. Sort out the trigger, sort out the reaction, clear the knots. So if the knots are the triggers, if the knots are the reactions, how can you clear that knot? How can you clear that reaction? It says anxiety. And this is something that is stirred in these reactional things, isn't it? Is this anxiety, this emotional response or this emotional reaction that's sort of triggered as a defense sort of energy that comes up. So it does trigger this anxious kind of energy. Complication. Triggers and reactions to things, we overcomplicate with these. Acknowledge what is a tangled mess. In other words, let's acknowledge what is triggering us. Let's acknowledge what we are reacting to. A solution, potential, and freedom exists. A solution. Is the solution to triggers in society trigger warnings on everything? Probably not. Is the solution to triggers or reactions, is the solution to this, I feel it's something that we are responsible for. If we have a reaction to something, that's our reaction. It's not necessarily, and most of the time, it's not anything to do with the person or the thing that we have actually reacted to. So to blame the thing that has caused our reaction is externalizing and actually giving our power away to that thing or that person. So instead of owning and taking responsibility for our reaction, because it's our reaction, there is this externalization, which I think we need to be really careful of, because there's no solution to be found in that. That is not resolving. In fact, it just keeps the trigger or the reaction going. And then it creates a bitterness within us, because we get potentially bitter or frustrated at the people or at the thing or at the institution or at the government or at whoever who is leading that, or aggravating and causing in some ways that reaction. Are they causing it? Because we also know, don't we, that some things that we say that are said in really good intentions can be overreacted to. We can overreact to things that other people do with quite fine intentions, and vice versa. So where is the responsibility held here? Is it in the hands of the one that's reacting, or the hands of the one that's in some ways causing the reaction, even though it's hard to know what reaction we're going to cause, because we've all got different issues. So what triggers me, what I react to, may not trigger, or you may not react to it. So then if we don't know, we're then treading on eggshells all the time, just in case we trigger or cause a reaction in someone. So I think we need to be really careful. And this card is just highlighting that really it's up to us to look at how we can untangle this mess for ourselves. And the key might be, if something, actually I find reactions a gift, because they show me what I've got an issue with. They show me straight on what I've got an issue with. So if I can find the courage to sit in that reaction or that trigger and what that's doing for me. And I also like to ask myself, when did I feel this before? Because it will often be something I felt before. When have I felt this reaction before? What is my reaction to begin with? And when have I felt this before? And if I felt this before earlier in my life, in the playground at school or something, or whatever it might be, then that's going to help give me a source to see, actually, this is a trigger. This is a reaction that I've got. This is an insecurity I have. This is an insecurity or an issue that I hold within myself, an issue about myself, or whatever it might be. It could be anything that is being triggered. And this is where it's a touchy subject if we're blaming the ones who are triggering us. The responsibility, I feel, well, what's worked for me is to take responsibility for my own triggers and reactions. I'm going to light my smudge stick here, and we'll do just a little bit of clearing to support the movement of this. So what I suggest is just see how what I'm sharing feels for you, what it feels like for you. How does it sit? How do you respond or react to it? And maybe think about if you're constantly triggered and you're constantly anxious about being triggered, that's not a very nice place to be living. You know, it's not nice living in a place like that. So if the way you've been dealing with it and managing it hasn't been resolving it for you, then maybe try a different approach. Try something that I've suggested here and see if that works better. See if it can resolve things so that you're not an anxious mess all the time and everywhere you go just in case you're triggered. And I think if we live in a world like this where we have trigger warnings everywhere, and everything we say and everything we do can potentially lead to some trigger of some sort within someone, that's what's going to happen. We can't please everybody. If we're living like that, we're all constantly holding back. And I don't know if I want to live in a world where everyone's holding back just in case that we're going to upset someone. And not deliberately going out upsetting people, because that's not ideal either. But I think I'd like to be able to live in a world where I can say what I feel as respectfully and honestly as I can, without worrying about worrying that I'm triggering or causing a reaction or an issue within other people. So I guess it's up to us. If this is a world that you also want to live in too, then it's up to us to really, really own our reactions, so that we can keep being ourselves in life. So take a nice big breath and imagine this sacred smoke washing over your body and carrying away with it all negative energies, entities, cords, hooks, and attacks and attachments. And allow yourself to let go of those issues, these things that we take personally. And that's another element of this, isn't it? It's not, most of the time, is not personal. What is happening that's triggering us or that's triggering a reaction is not a personal attack against us. It's just something that someone says or something that someone does. And so it's not personal. Let's stop taking things that are happening personal, but let's instead own why are we having that reaction and what can we do about it so that we can strengthen ourselves, thicken our skin so we're not taking things so personally. So let's let those things go. It's not personal. Let's take a big breath and let go. Let go of the things that you've been taking too personally and start unraveling, especially if you feel tangled up with triggers and reactions and they're coming at you everywhere, then it probably is feeling like a tangled mess, like you're all knotted up. So start untangling that and letting go. Work through the loudest ones first and release them. Figure them out. Get to know yourself through your reactions and your triggers, and clear your issues that are being presented so that you can untangle the mess that you feel that you're in, if this is a big, important thing for you, a big thing that you're dealing with. So letting go, breathing out and letting go. And it is safe for you to let go and to resolve your issues. And so it is. Okay, thank you. Let's just pop this stick out. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining me today. I trust that you've enjoyed this connection and that it's been helpful in some way. If you have enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up button. Please show us some love. Please comment. Please share if you're inspired to. And if you'd prefer to connect more privately, please don't hesitate to send us a message through our website. So if you'd like to learn more about my cards or anything that I do at Temple of Balance, if my attitude and approach and my energy resonates with you, then you might find something helpful and supportive on my website. So please visit, have a look, see if there's anything that speaks to you. I've created a lot of things over the last 18 years since I founded Temple of Balance. So your support is, I'm really grateful for any support that you can offer. So thank you. So I'm going to pull a card to go. So popping the other one back, which seemed actually quite important and very relevant to the topic, which is great. So I'm now looking for the best card that we need to move forward from here. So how can we move forward now? If we're constantly triggered and reacting to things and we're taking things personally and treading on eggshells everywhere, then we're going to feel pretty stuck. We really are going to feel stuck. So how can we move forward from here? And I feel like, how can we free ourselves up from putting so much weight onto our reactions and triggers and making them such a big giant deal than maybe they really are? If we deal with them when they come up at the time and face them, like for me, I might be triggered and may have it resolved within 24 hours, so I'm not even going to really think about it again until the next one comes up, which might be 6 or 9 or 10 or 12 months later or more. So I think that's normal for me. I don't know what's normal for you, but are your triggers and reactions getting out of control? And if they are, they're probably holding you back. So let's look at how we can free ourselves now moving forward from here. How can we let this stuff go? How can we get our power back? So that's the card I'm looking for. The best card for the majority of us as we move forward from here. And the best card is this. It's from my Healing Energy Cards Deck 1. And it's this. Card 23 called Communication Bridge. It's in the action category. And down here it says, speak honestly from your heart. And we have to be so super honest with ourselves. It's easy to blame and it's easy to point the finger at others that are causing our reaction. It's so easy to do that, but it's not necessarily honest. It's the easy thing if we're not wanting to look at our issues. So we need to be honest with ourselves and why we are being triggered. Why are we reacting like this? Speak honestly from your heart. Bridge the gap. Say what you feel. An opportunity to clear the air, to communicate and express your inner feelings. Okay, so moving forward from here, creating a bridge between where we are now and where we're going, and ensuring that where we're going is the path that we're choosing, and society is not choosing this for us, and wrapping ourselves up all sensitively and taking things too personally. That this actually shuts us all down. This will end up suppressing the society. So creating a bridge towards honesty and truth and taking responsibility, owning what we're dealing with at the time feels to be an important element here. And also communicating clearly and learning how to communicate with ourselves. It's actually quite tricky to communicate with ourselves. And in fact, it's something that I would guess the everyday person probably doesn't even really think about. But I find that it's so valuable. And when I'm having communication issues with other people, especially multiple at the same time, they always reflect the communication issues that I have with myself. So how can we communicate better with ourselves? Be honest with ourselves. Stop blaming, stop projecting, stop giving our power away to others. Start listening to how we feel, but also listening to our thoughts, our words, our actions, so we can really get to know who we are. So listening is really important. Finding a way to dialogue with ourselves. Now, for some, it might be going through thoughts and really thinking things through. I tend to get overthinky if I do that. So I like writing and I like creating and I like poetry and I like music and I like ways I can express myself that is not me going off on a thinking tangent, because I don't tend to resolve things for myself. That's my personality. I'm better at writing things down where I can see it visually and get it out of my head. So finding a way to dialogue with ourselves, to communicate, to get to know what's happening inside, and that this feels to be like a bridge that can help us really resolve our reactions and our triggers if they are getting out of hand and out of control. So communicating with ourselves can only help improve our communications with others. So if you have the Healing Energy cards, you might also want to grab card 23, Communication Bridge, out of your deck and keep that close by for a few days or as long as is needed. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for connecting and for being here. And I trust this has been helpful in some way. Take care. I'll see you again next time. So have a great rest of your day. It's so dark here. Like it's like 3:30 or something in the afternoon, and it feels like it's like 6 o'clock at night. So it's cold and dark and rainy and interesting. So anyway, thank you. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time.